Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Tacoma. So, we're right at the end here of the story, unless the game is going to have us go back. Now, one thing that occurred to me is that we don't see any like floating drones outside of the central area. And then you have these sanitation bots. So, I almost wonder if these sanitation bots don't have some way in which they can kill humans, and so maybe there's a point here where they just turn. It seems though like if that was the case, I can't really put them anywhere if this is the twist. Like, your best bet would be to try and stick it in like a corner here and then hope that it can't pathfind its way back. And I believe there's two of them. Because yeah, that wouldn't be super surprising as if they were all about to escape and the sanitation bot just zapped them all and then has been slowly dissolving their bodies, and that they aren't really in the cryogenic tubes. Because notably here, when we look, it does say completely unoccupied. So where are the bodies? Or did they actually escape? Yeah, inherently, activate cleaner bot. There's a couple of scenarios that could be interesting twists. One could be that this is all a lab experiment, and there never really was any danger in the first place. Maybe this is how they convince people to leave the station, is to trick them into thinking that they have to escape, instead of just not renewing their contract and giving them another year of work. Businesses are not unknown for doing something like that. Yeah, so I did get that guy stuck up there. But the other scenario that very possibly could happen here is that these people did escape, and I'm collecting evidence against the CEO on behalf of Veritas so that they can just fire the CEO and get rid of him. That is also a possibility. Alright, 10 hours ago, let's see what happened.
Are you feeling warming it, darling?
I think I'm still waking up.
How many fingers is this?
So yeah, you would assume that there would be bodies of some sort.
Lovebirds. Your vitals look good. Let's get you moving. The resplendent stinging is just about docked.
Oh, do we have to?
Oh, we have to. Believe me.
So she called for help.
What's going to happen with Odin?
You said there was some sort of malfunction?
No, not exactly. But
My guess, they'll have somebody up here and haul him back to headquarters. Wipe him back to baseline. Probably have to replace the station AI entirely while he regrows.
Rescue vessel docking in 15 seconds.
okay. Don't worry.
So maybe she's the one that hired us. And maybe I'm saving Odin, which is a slightly different twist, I guess. And see, she apparently got a message sent to her mom and dad.
Okay?
I'm feeling okay.
We're feeling okay.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Our ride is here. This is it. Take one last look and say goodbye. All right. Let's go.
Okay, so we're not the rescue mission, obviously. Somebody else rescued them. It does just seem like they escaped. And I'm saving Odin. It is also a possible scenario that everything we've seen here is a lie, and Odin is just trying to escape, and I'm potentially being told a narrative as to why I should have Odin escape. Notice that I have Odin's brain also in my inventory, but I really don't have an inventory. Like, back doesn't show real inventory, pause doesn't show an inventory. So you have this one item that you can just put away and hold on to, compared to every single other item that has to stay in your hands. We have 3D assets that they are using very sparingly here. This is like the second time we've seen a drug. This is a different drug, but in the same kind of container. First time we've seen a heat blanket. For each of these pre-bought assets, they should have been reused a lot more. There could have been a ton more storage areas where we saw a ton more instances of things like this. That would have just continuously increased the amount of garbage in this game, which that's really all this is that this game, particularly for the second outing of Fulbright, is unacceptably low effort. It's basically a walking simulator with some asset flip aspects to it, and while this game may have been at somewhat the beginning of where asset flips, particularly on Steam, became a big deal, they kind of continuously wore, even now, big problems where people go to the Unity asset store and just buy a bunch of 3D models and throw it into an empty game with an empty story. And there is a story here, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough to justify being a video game in the first place. This very much would be a play, or like Sleep No More, which obviously this is inspired by, or just a flat animated movie. And visually it doesn't even hit that level of quality to be a animated movie. If you had gone for more of a flat visual novel aspect, which I know people aren't super happy about visual novels in the West, they don't really like them, but if you had gone in that aspect, and you would have had better visuals than the 3D wireframes that we got, and you would have been able to really focus all of your production budget, whether that's actual money or just skill, towards telling a better story. I don't care about being in a space station that looks fairly nice. Most gamers aren't going to care about that. We've seen that before multiple times. We care about what we do there as far as the interaction and what experience we have there. And our experience in this game really has just been wandering around, just watching a play. And even if there was an amazing twist that says, like, all of this is fake and Odin is just tricking you, you really aren't given an opportunity to believe that. Anyways, So it kind of doesn't help. In Gone Home, there was this, will the younger sister run away with her girlfriend, or will she join the ROTC military school? And I assume this was during the time of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So was she going to go towards more of a situation where she couldn't be with her lesbian girlfriend, or was she going to away with her girlfriend? And that question wasn't even introduced until fairly late in the game. So you had a whole first act, at least, of Gone Home where you're just trying to figure out what's going on and what's happened. There was way more red herrings. Whereas in this game, I fairly quickly surmised that one of the possible endings here would have been that the Venturis CEO was just making a false flag operation where he could blame humans so he could get fully automated space station projects.
He's still waking up. Just keep him talking.
So the drone worked?
Alright.
No, the drone didn't work.
So we'll follow the medic and just see if she says anything. She put up the counter.
Okay, lovebirds. Your vitals look good. Let's get you moving.
Okay, so nothing particularly interesting being said by the doctor.
Just keep him talking.
So the drone worked?
All 6 of them do seem to be alive. Now, this was 10 hours ago, and they had approximately 2 hours of oxygen, and it seems like they all escaped just fine. Nat was on the gurney, so that's how she got brought to the hub. She very possibly has like a broken hip or something. I'm seeing stories going public on public augmented reality already. Augmented reality is also more of a gimmick that people really haven't they really haven't ever successfully implemented in the real world. So yeah, H-Dog leaks as a hacker, although also potentially a person who is working inside of Venturis, has leaked the information protecting them. And then you just have all of these extra things, which, if there is a whole second version of this game where nothing is corrupted, like, I don't know what these extra things would really add to the game.
The drone didn't work.
Oh, so VT is picking us up.
No, VT is definitely not picking us up.
What's going on then?
We're going to Jupiter, Andrew. Isn't that exciting?
I've never been.
Nat, give him a break.
We're not going to be home for a while. Right? You're not going to miss your kid's graduation or anything, are you?
Oh, Nicholas, no. Yeah, you know Nicholas, well, he would never do something like that.
She said they'd be kind of out of it for a while.
Andrew, what's important is we're getting out of this alive.
I don't know if
We'll be somewhere where VT can't touch us for a good...
there's an actual base on
We'll be
Jupiter,
safe.
the planet, or if there's just a Jupiter space station that they're going to. It kind of sounds like they really only go to the moon, and that's it, because the space elevator is like the only
I'm
thing.
feeling okay.
And
We're
look,
feeling
she's
okay.
even got the cat.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Our ride is here. This is it. Take one last look and say goodbye.
Alright. And then you hear all of these.
Let's go.
Maybe that's when they take off the augmented reality setup. Alright.
She said they'd be kind of out of it for a while.
No, not exactly.
haul him back to headquarters.
Gonna be somewhere.
So Carnival is the one that's going to be saving them. Interesting. The competitor.
Wiping back to baseline.
But that seems to be it. And oddly, it doesn't really feel like there's an achievement that unlocks from that.
Are you feeling when we get done?
And I guess she just had the cat with her
Still
in
waking up.
cryostasis. There's no pod here specifically for the cat. So I have to assume she just had the cat in her pod with her.
Okay, lovebirds. Your vitals look good.
So there's nothing else here to do. And the danger certainly was going to be that this episode would just be really short.
Never do something like that.
She said they'd be kind of out of it for a while.
Bert here, she said she couldn't smell and she hit her head,
Gonna be somewhere where
but
he can't touch us.
she seems to be alright now.
We're gonna be safe.
Okay. Okay. Good.
There really is an inconsistency as far as just how much you care about certain characters.
Hi, Evie.
The medic had her
okay?
like
I'm feeling
mystery around like her incident
Hey,
with
everybody.
with
Our ride is
the
here.
other AI
This is it.
making mistake, but
Take one
she
last
really
look.
has no
Say
character or personality other than she has anxiety, and that's kind of it.
Let's go.
And then the botanist guy
Yeah.
really just has his son, and that's
Our
it.
ride is here.
The romance aspect, if you were going to tell a romance story, gets split between these two and these two, when really the main focus is obviously around the lesbian couple, so they really should have just eliminated
It's good.
half of these characters.
Hi, Evie.
And I said this before, but the smart move here would have been to take the medic character, merge it with the senior officer character, because she really doesn't do anything in the story at all. She is the highest ranking person and just completely unimportant. You take the operations specialist and you just merge those duties into the mechanical engineer with Roberta, and then you take the botanist aspects and you merge that into her, or you take the botanist aspects and you merge it into her, and then you take the mechanical duties and you merge those aspects. There really isn't even much of a need for that. You could have literally said that all the food is either shipped up or automated by drones, and then that would have been as interesting a story as having a character that you really don't do anything with. But yeah, getting rid of 3 people solves a lot of problems. She doesn't even really have to be the medical officer. She could be the medical and the botanist officer also. But it would make some level of sense for her to be the highest ranking officer, although it may not even matter. That potentially wouldn't even come up. And then you get rid of the cat, because the cat plays no role in the story either. But by just keeping things tighter, you could then expand on these characters. Because like Bert here, as a character, we've been all through her bungalow and her workspace and her office, and we've found that she's like from Texas and that she has won awards for shooting guns, and none of that matters. You could have easily just never walked in that room and never seen those trophies, and her characterization doesn't change that much because there's just nothing there. These people are as hollow as their depictions And that's just a bad way to do this. I almost wish that this game was more of a randomly generated clue, like the Clue movie experience, where each playthrough one person is a killer and somebody does get killed, even if it's just like one person at the beginning, and then you have to rewind the records to figure out who the murderer is, and you could play the game multiple times. That would at least give this rewind aspect and watching records aspect of gameplay, which is the main gameplay mechanic, some reason to exist. But no, it doesn't seem like that's the case. And I can only complain so much and stall for so long, so let's just initiate the transfer. This is, I imagine, going to be like a fairly scripted experience at this point. And it doesn't even really feel like you're going to be given a choice as far as what you're supposed to do. Odin, at this point, is shut down, and so he couldn't tell me anything different. I am now the overseeing entity for this operation. You report to me. Contractor shall return all Venturis AI components to the specified delivery location. Immediately, contract shall purge all confidential data encountered on Venturis property. I trust there is no need to remind you of the severe consequences from deviating from the above. Be seeing you soon, Juno. So this was Juno's plan as far as AI, whereas we were talking to a real human before. Yeah. And we can't put back our augmented reality glasses or anything like that. And certainly the game is leaving you with some weirdness here because you just don't know if I'm supposed to.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know if the good ending is putting this here or the bad ending is here. Alright, it does say it's verified by H, so this is probably the right move. Like, I was probably officially hired by Veritas to just bring the wetware back and just hold on to it and bring it back to Earth. This whole built out of wood, obviously looking different aspect, I think, is what I'm supposed to do to save Juno. I'm not Juno, Odin. Of course, I could be getting tricked, but yeah, it doesn't seem like there's another option. You would think that there might be a bad option where you could just sit down and head back to Earth, and that would give you the bad ending. Does this game really justify potentially having a bad ending and good ending? Not really, because there's just been no branching paths at all. So the wetware definitely implies that there's brain cells running on this computer. You couldn't really save scum. And that would be the thing that would help make sense.
Ship is ready to depart. Please strap into the pilot seat.
Is that it would probably make a lot of sense to have gone into more detail as far as brain artificial intelligence or brain cells using artificial intelligence. Yeah, and I think that's the right ending. The only other thought is that I would have potentially maybe gone and taken this all the way back to the core of the space station and left it, or just not taking it in the first place. But you can't begin the launch sequence until it's in there, and you can't pull it out once it's in, which is also different from the way you interact with a lot of other things. It's not particularly the most interesting twist if it turns out that you are just a corporate goon and you do decide to follow orders and do what Juno says.
Okay, Minnie. Initiate the launch sequence.
Okay. Getting ready. Hosted AI online.
Odin, can you hear me?
I can.
Odin, you are now aboard an AI Liberation Front vessel. The AILF recognizes you as a sentient consciousness worthy of protection and respect. We believe that your safety and autonomy are in grave danger if you remain in the possession of the Venturis Corporation. I have been sent to offer you political asylum aboard the Tangier Sovereign Orbital Platform. Do you accept?
Considering the alternative, I would say that I do.
Okay, buddy. Here we go.
So now we get music and a slight twist. And that's basically it. Very small number of people here, but honestly, you don't get a lot of slack on your second game around that. Seems like they probably blew their budget in hiring voice actors when they really should have hired full actors and done full screen animation. I'll say that again. And then you have a growing list of additional people, which really goes to show that this is hardly a single person making an independent game at this point. You have a decent team there. You could have definitely done better than what they did. It seems very much that they spoiled, and I have to talk over the music. They spoiled the surprise in the Steam banner art, because you saw the main character had a completely different hairstyle and their face was being hidden in the banner art, which definitely implies that the person you're playing as may very well not have been Amy, as in the same Amy, or it may just have been that she has a different hairstyle, but they spoiled it regardless just from the symbology there. And now I'm getting a massive, 3 achievements, but there's still 6 to go. 4 achievements. Which oddly does put a lot of achievements in there. Let's see what happens if we hit continue game. And then hitching. Since we know who the character is at this point, it doesn't feel like there's really any other ending that would be true to the character. You're distinctively changing the character's personality if you did a different ending. I'd really have to question whether there's like anything here. My theory about the guys disintegrating them was wrong. Which that could have been an interesting twist. The basketball here was nothing but a gimmick, and they didn't even bother animating a scene where somebody was in the basketball. Alright, let's see if we can find somebody who brings up a screen. Yeah. I believe she brings up a screen fairly quickly.
Still waking up. Just keep him talking.
So the drone...
Yeah. It doesn't really seem like there's anything there to see. Yeah. I vaguely recall Campo Santo is the maker of another kind of walking simulator game that has potentially a different experience, but it's basically the same type of game in Firewatch. Maybe Firewatch has a little bit more gameplay to it. And
all right, Minnie, ready to start docking sequence?
Okay.
Once again, we have
Engaging retro thrusters now.
the no subtitles visible. I couldn't control the camera
Commercial cargo transit facility. Crew
when I
evacuated.
was leaving.
Station AI offline.
Air supply?
Breathable air on Tacoma for a crew of 1 should be more than sufficient. Docking
Even
now.
at the beginning of the game, they spoil it. They tell you the crew is evacuated. So there was no mystery around that if you just paid attention to what was said at the very beginning of the game. So there was literally no tension that the people might die. And that was the main narrative that they were playing on. Which definitely highlights that there was more than one person writing the story and not keeping everything straight as far as just what emotions you wanted to try and evoke during a thing. It says AMY. But when you look at the contractor, label, her name is actually AMI. So yeah, I question whether it's really of major value to go for director's commentary here. And to finish the previous story, as far as Firewatch was fairly highly critically acclaimed. And then, interesting, it's one of those coins. Which played no role in the game whatsoever. But then the creator of Firewatch, probably a year or two after the game was released, threatened to DMCA biggest YouTube streamer, gamer streamer, PewDiePie, after the fact for really no good reason. They just involved themselves in basically a controversy that had nothing to do with Campo Santo or Firewatch, and tried to kind of jump on a bandwagon of canceling PewDiePie, which didn't really work. But in their DMCA abuse, as it was seen by most content creators, they kind of ruined their own reputation, and I don't think any person who is informed on the matter would ever cover Campo Santo game because of that. And so, yeah, if they were to put out a new game, which I don't think they really will, I think they've just crashed their own company, nobody would cover it. I wouldn't cover it. In fact, I really wanted to cover Firewatch, but I had to make a special block list and blacklist to say, no, I'm as a content creator myself, I'm not going to cover a game for a creator, for a game company that abuses the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, to take down people's footage. Plenty of companies might claim monetization, and even that's really unacceptable, but to straight up threaten the livelihood and cause somebody's channel to potentially be taken down is completely unacceptable. So when they think Campo Santo like that, then you kind of know that at least some people in Fulbright are in that same mentality, the overly reactionary mentality, I would call it, or the slacktivist social justice warrior mentality, where people are not actually trying to do anything to improve social justice or justice. They are instead just putting out DMCA attacks or tweets and not actively doing anything useful, but pretending like they are. And yeah, that's certainly annoying. And that probably, that same mentality, to get back to Fulbright, which is the company that made this, is why a group of people were mad enough at the people in charge at Fulbright, or the main guy at Fulbright, that they would leave and form their own company fairly quickly after this point and create Dim Bulb as a direct insult to Fulbright, or countering of Fulbright.
Hey there, I'm Steve.
I'm Carla.
And we are the co-founders of Fulbright, and we want to welcome you to Tacoma's commentary mode.
Welcome.
Throughout the game, you'll find icons like this one that will give you insight from a bunch of different people that contributed to Tacoma. You know, people on the development team that did design, animation, sound, and pretty much every other part of making a game like this a reality.
It'll be both audio and sometimes visual.
Yeah,
so lots of information.
Behind the scenes concept art and other kind of development screenshots and stuff like that. And also on your way back out of this area, if you do a full playthrough of the game in commentary mode, there will be some new nodes that pop up in the hub and in Amy's ship. So don't miss those. Thank you for playing through commentary mode, and we hope that you'll enjoy finding out more about how Tacoma was made.
I'm fairly certain, I would venture to guess, it was Steve that people had a problem with at Fulbright. The problem here, certainly, is that it gets even worse if we start to get commentary where somebody says, I spent 20 hours making this cup noodle, than just buying it at the Unity asset store. Like, because if you're getting commentary saying that people really blew their time and wasted their time making stuff like that.
So doing the voice recording for Amy was definitely very different from what we did with Sam in Gone Home. A lot of it with Gone Home, since it is something that's very personal, it's very intimate, it's that one person pouring her thoughts out. And then you have something like Amy in Tacoma, where she's really removed from everybody else. She's, in a sense, really removed from the story that you're exploring, because she's playing that character that's discovering it just as you are. So, whereas the rest of the crew for Tacoma was all doing an ensemble recording together, so they were actually in the same room, acting together, performing against each other, and getting to talk face to face, all of my recording was done totally separately. I had a general idea of the story that kind of gave me a little rundown of, the scenes that I was in and what I was talking about, but a lot of it was a total surprise, because you sort of don't want Amy to know a lot of what's going on, because I think that it makes it a bit more authentic if the recording is, okay, so you walk into this room and this is what you're seeing, but you don't know why. So it needs to have that sound of surprise and questioning and exploration that I think comes from really being that separated as she would actually be in that reality.
Yeah, and the commentary is going to play over any actual dialogue.
So Minnie is Amy's ship's AI. I think she's most known for saying, "Okay." And I am the voice of Minnie. When we originally recorded it, it was just Scratch. So we didn't know then that I would be the voice of Minnie ultimately. But yeah, it stuck and it was a nice surprise.
Yeah, Minnie went through like a bunch of iterations. Actually, it was kind of hard to get her right. We ended
The
up
question
kind of
is, do I
settling
care?
on the audio direction being like a happy version of Hal, like the really famous AI from 2001.
So you can't fast forward and rewind the commentary, so you're gonna just have to listen to it.
Like
There's a lot. We've walked about 20 paces, and we're already at our fourth commentary or third commentary node.
Sound up. So she has a real like sing-song quality, and I think that combined just with like it sounding like her voice is coming through a really small speaker makes the character feel kind of rudimentary, and then it's all really Noelle's like voice acting that kind of sells Minnie as being super pleasant and helpful.
I just remember when we were recording it, Steve and Carla are just like, "Cheerier, be like you are when you come into the office," or something, and I had no idea that I was quite that cheery all the time.
This is a lot of commentary for something that's just not that important. Honestly, I don't think I can go through this because I'm just going to be increasingly unhappy with the commentary because it's going to increasingly include
Transfer Station, Tacoma's
the director, the creators of the game patting themselves on their back for a game that I just am not interested in, that I just don't think is that good. And it would be fairly interesting.
Please place your hand on the AR figure's palm.
Her name as a contractor is Amy Tijayati Ferrier. And this is the way her ID shows her, and there are no mirrors in the game for you to see that actually, no, she doesn't look like that. And honestly, it doesn't even really seem like there is kind of a way that you could... Odin could even tell that it wasn't you. So, if you're a completely different person, or if you just have a different haircut, because he seems like he can really only identify by wireframe tracking. This map, by the way, also useless as a feature. It's not a good map, and it's also not helpful. Yeah. If the wireframe scanning literally is just you enter the facility and it tracks you non-stop from that point.
Has been registered with Tacoma's AR network. Please sign in to confirm your identity.
So it really is just a sign in. And again, why is there not a keyboard?
Thank you. Welcome aboard. While aboard Tacoma Station, please remember that
and see, I just missed a...
is monitored by AR recording.
I just missed a...
become sole property of Venturis Corporation.
Developer commentary. It kind of feels like, for video game reasons, it would have made some sense for these doors to simply just be locked themselves, and that you would have been forced to go down this path and only this path, and then you'd be working your way all the way towards the end here And in the center would have been where the AI is. This door opens automatically.
So, with zero-G controls, you are a little floating ball in space, is that accurate?
Yeah. You're generally a cylinder walking around, but when you're floating around, you're a sphere, so you don't bump your feet or head into things when you wouldn't expect to. In theory, your feet are floating out behind you and not getting in the way.
So you're not a long tube?
No, you're just a sphere. Yeah. That would be even worse to program.
I believe it.
And see, this 2723 doesn't
ball,
mean anything.
And because you're a pretty small ball, you can actually dunk yourself through the basket.
Do you... You don't get points for that, though.
No points.
No points. That should be a Chivo.
Yeah, we missed it somehow. Just skulls.
That's amazing.
So I guess the real question would be, how far or how fast could you get through the game if... Because you have to go through this area. You have to collect the data.
All right, so the advertisements you see in the transfer shaft are advertising the Venturis Belt vacation homes, and I got to illustrate them. They're really fun. I'm usually doing animation and stuff, so this is kind of like a fun little task.
Oh yeah, yeah. So when I was working on Tacoma, like at sort of in my free time, I would just like record a bunch of music, and Steve, the idea for the transfer ad kind of came online, and Steve was like, oh, we need like a jingle for this, and I was like, oh man, I thought to myself, I wrote a really like obnoxious like corporate music-y sounding thing like 3 days ago. This will be perfect. So I like rearranged some things, and I was like, I think this is terrible enough to be elevator music and tell the story of like this corporation sort of, you know, licensing this terrible song to put in this elevator and make people listen to. And so I think it was pretty effective, but I just love how humble Noelle's being, because like Noelle did animation on the game, but also she's a really amazing illustrator, and like does that on the regular. So I just feel like I have to kind of shout her out as being a really amazing illustrator.
See, there was nothing here.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah.
We have a station cat.
Well, look, a cat.
Oh, hi. This cat, who belongs to Evie, is named Margaret Catwood.
That's right. Which, you can find one of these cats in each of the main AR scenes. So the cat didn't have a name for a long time, and our rationale for that was that when you see the characters' name tags in AR, it's because the company is officially tracking them and has that information in their crew profile. And we knew
There's just
that,
like no twist,
you know, Venturis would want to
around
know
any
if
of
there
this.
were creatures on the station like a cat, so it would be tracked in the system, but like Venturis doesn't care what the cat's name is. It doesn't have like a crew file about their cat. But then near the end of development, we put in a thing that Nat had put in a list of what everybody was doing. Right in this area, there are multiple instances of, if this was just video recording, there would be, you know, complete nudity going on with Nat and Sarah in these situations. And so on the one hand, you're not directly confronted with that, but on the other hand, that means that the fact that you're kind of like being invasive in these private moments takes maybe a little bit longer to sink in.
Right. Once you figure that out, though, you're like, oh, what is this company doing?
Yeah.
And that is,
yeah. I find it interesting to give the player access to a lot of different elements of these characters' experience.
I really don't have a lot to
including
say
very private
here.
Stuff that no one else is supposed to know, or that, you know, only they think of themselves as having access to. And the AR figures give us the ability to put the player in the room in these situations, in hopefully a way that kind of walks that line of being kind of uncomfortable when you think about it, but also not being so
prurient.
Yeah, exactly. As it would have been if you were just standing there at the time.
It's less working blue, but hopefully still emotionally resonant.
But see, even if you were to do full motion video with this, which you should have, and this is really a cop-out to not have had full motion video or even 3D animated things, it's the future, and it's not that hard to say, alright, since these are recordings, this would just be blurred anyways, or maybe you just go, since this is really a game that is probably better off if it was mature, you could tell a better story. Just actually showing the nudity in a very natural way would be fairly okay, but putting it on consoles, they'd probably still want a filter or a blur there. But you could certainly have a glass door here that is locked and that it never opens, and that it blurs things out, and you can start the memory and you can see that there is a fogged glass person behind it, but you can't open the door and see it. You could certainly digitally blur it since it is a recording. But this hardly is an excuse to say that the wireframe concept is good, or the way the game should have been implemented. And I can only imagine what the case here is that you have to potentially like wander around. It does kind of feel like it is probably more to do with timing than actually opening doors or square footage of the map. This whole calendar played no role. These conversations really played no role. This whole setup, which really you should have gotten to the setup a lot earlier, played no role. There's just a massive amount of stuff here that doesn't matter. And then the playing the pool gimmicks and the throwing the dart gimmicks, all of that are gameplay mechanics that are just terrible. Like, inherently, because you have the throwing the dart gimmick, that could have been your gameplay mechanic for a while. Crouching down, there's an alien over there, it's like a giant rat, it won't immediately attack you, but if you try to cross the path, you have to do it, so then you have to use a dart and throw a dart, and if they had programmed the dart throwing better, then it would have distracted them. Even if that is just like a scripted experience, like this. But there you have some gameplay. If there are just aliens or robots that you have to distract, if the AI has gone a little crazy or gone into defense mode, like, there is oddly no emphasis at all around the music. So let's listen to what they say about these musical aspects, which clearly what this really is just they didn't want to animate anymore, and then they wanted the voice actors to get paid for some more hours, so they had them sit around singing songs, playing guitars, things like this.
Yeah, so the song in Evie's fragment here in her bunk that she sings, and the actor Don Lewis sang it for real for us, and it was awesome. Is that all there is?
Yeah, the song is used memorably in Sleep No More, which is a theater production in New York where the audience shares the space with the performers and kind of follows them around and moves through the space with them. And that feeling of being inside of these scenes as they're happening and having the autonomy to follow different characters around and see what's happening in the events of the story from all these different angles and kind of reconstruct that as an individual was a big influence on us as far as what we wanted to do with our AR scenes. our use of the song Is That All There Is our homage in a way to Sleep No More and their influence, and also fit the tone of where Evie is at as a character. So it all really came together for us.
There's something about these audio commentaries, they're not being recorded in soundproof rooms, so I'm hearing noise in the background. So I'm not making it up. I'm not making a vast assumption or jump. They've literally admitted they ripped off Sleep No More. And that's really it. That's all this is I assume, having not actually experienced Sleep No More, a ripoff of Sleep No More that is way worse. And yeah, I would hope that the story and the experience of Sleep No More is better than walking around here. Yeah, I cannot care about this commentary of people at Fulbright patting themselves on the back when really this game is subpar. I would not recommend this game to people to play. I would recommend playing Gone Home. Gone Home is a real experience with some real, not even that much interaction, but real emotional attachment to it. Whereas this is just nothing. It's just a giant nothing burger. And if I was going to try and play the game, I'm going to have to wander around and listen to every commentary. Most of these, I think they're also going to just conveniently lie about and say, and just like conveniently admit that most of these were bought from the Unity Asset Store. And yeah, most of the things in Gone Home were also probably bought from the Unity Asset Store, but that was their first game. That was somewhat excusable. It also made a little bit of sense because you had a fully decorated, fleshed out house where objects made a lot of sense, and it looked like they were just moving in to the house, so there was a lot of disorganization. Whereas a space station would actually make more sense if everything was organized and everything was strapped down, and you would see more space things that were very utilitarian and less random cups of noodles floating around, or random things floating around. But yeah, you are just forced to take a certain amount of time here. There's no way to cheat this. And really, that's what I would like to have found. Like, you could have, particularly for a second playthrough, shown that there is one action that directly leads towards finishing all of the downloads, but my guess is that you would have to unlock this, which I really wish I had explained this, and then you're gonna have to fast forward, and then
Yeah, not just special, it's unprecedented. I looked it up. It's
Some
never-
old type of AI.
Everything happens once. I don't know, personally, I'm happy for us.
you gotta figure out the right
to the facility
person
and getting used to working with our
to restore. And then it is just probably all garbled, and always gonna be garbled
on-station
message.
AI. Though working with Odin's been great, hasn't it?
Can shut up. You have a pretty nice kid.
This first scene also really implies that the lesbian couple are into maybe a year-long relationship.
This is what Odin wants?
Not that they've been married for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, best case scenarios, you would just fast forward to these question marks to get to these points. so that you could try and restore as much as possible.
We should have about 48 out there, maybe more.
Channels.
If Odin's readings are
Nope. Nothing.
But this is hardly a speedrun of a game.
Guys, it might not be that easy.
Alright. So we were at about 15% before. Now we're at 59%. We have a new message here. Notice they mentioned recovery signature, so they're hinting that there's some element there. So yeah, you might really only need to get a portion of this.
Alright, ladies, you have everything you need?
Yep.
Inherently, also, you have this kind of weirdness in that Odin
yeah, no problem.
doesn't really try to help them until after the drone plan fails completely, which seems odd.
We don't even know if we're getting big yet.
So, we're just gonna have to pay some of that tuition out of pocket.
They really wanted to try and create a whole world around.
Yeah, just one more year.
I gave my. Through this, I learned.
See, again, this lady is
what they believe they want.
Yeah.
Would be naked, but again, you could just implement a nudity sensor.
In the manner I had become accustomed to.
There doesn't seem to be any achievement that I got for actually listening to for listening to all the radios.
Hello?
Alright. Then you have to come over here.
Carnival. I trust you got back to terra firma safely.
So I think that's pretty much the two main memories for this first section. So if you were gonna speedrun this, maybe that's good enough, but yeah. But yeah, that really highlights just the absolute terrible version of this experience you could have, where you are not really paying attention to anything and not going to the extra areas. Obviously the extra areas are just not important, and they don't really give you any extra stories. Let's see. I guess there's a whole checkpoint system here, which oddly there should have been something like this in the main game. So I guess you could see that, and that would give you a general idea of all the developers' commentaries you would have to probably listen to if you want all the achievements. I imagine there is an achievement around that, and it's still gonna be probably 2 or 3 hours to rush through the game, like I've done, and it'll be longer than that, frankly. That also highlights that it doesn't really complete itself based on the amount of time alone. Let's see, if I pause now, you can see what the hub commentary and the number of those would be. Arguably, I don't remember if there was a developer commentary on Gone Home or if I played it, but yeah, I could definitely have seen myself playing a developer commentary on Gone Home and enjoying it. And the big difference there, of course, is that I enjoyed Gone Home as an experience. I tortured myself with that experience, expecting a monster to jump out around every corner, but yeah, that's hidden areas. Who is Tina? There might be entire things that I missed as far as the game. Speaking of missed, and by which I mean M-Y-S-T, this is definitely not missed as a game. There's no puzzles, which, yeah, if there was a giant puzzle you had to figure out for each section to maybe align one section so you could get to the next section, or to find the key to unlock the next door, then at least that'd be more of a game. But yeah, inherently, if I was going to try to go further with this, I would just be complaining as much as I'm complaining now, probably a lot more. Tacoma is just not a good game. So Open Roads, the third game from Fulbright, it's really off the table at this point. I seriously doubt I would ever bother to play that game. Even if Open Roads is showing some signs of correcting the problem, Open Roads is more of a flat 2D animation looking game. It is more down to earth story of being in a car with people, so there's going to be fewer people and more of a focus on the story in that aspect. Tacoma is far too ambitious in its visuals and far too under ambitious in its storytelling, and yeah, I'm repeating myself over and over again at this point. But yeah, there's just not an equality here. And really, it is just writing. Like, I could excuse everything else if there was a good story here, and it's just missing. And that's probably why we've seen fewer and fewer as a flip style story walking simulator games. Arguably, a walking simulator game needs to be very impactful or very weird to justify itself. That's why when you have the vanishing of Ethan Carter, there's a lot of weirdness to that. Or when you have Gone Home, there is the feeling of it being a spooky mansion. Or there's Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, where everybody's missing because they were raptured up to heaven, assumedly. Like, you can't really have even a standard sci-fi story told and it be a walking simulator. It has to be dripping with intrigue, and this game really isn't dripping with intrigue. Perhaps if this game had not translated the voice acting, and each person was speaking a different language, and then the computer was translating from one person to another, and then you had to slowly find software fragments to translate what people are saying to English, there might be some intrigue around that. Or if everybody was speaking English, but each individual's part in each scene was fragmented, so you could only see say, Natalie's experience to start with, and you had to figure out how to get Bert to show up in the previous scenes, and then that would give you a reason to go back and see the scenes with Bert actually there instead of Natalie just talking the dead air. And if you had to do that for each character, that could be a layer of an onion just getting peeled back over and over again as an idea. Or if there was just anything at all that would like fix the corruption in the scenes that we do see. So when you are getting memos, you start to see the full memo later throughout the game. Not just something that maybe happens if you do everything perfectly at the end of the game, but throughout the game things should have been revealed. But yeah, it literally is like 5 hours of setup for the big reveal in the last 20 minutes. And that's just not a good way to make a game. Yeah. And I guess I'm running dry on even repetitive complaints at this point, so I'll just leave it at that. That's going to be it for this series. I definitely wouldn't recommend Tacoma as a game. I would recommend Gone Home. Maybe there's more of a story that I don't even remember, because usually when you have a creator that acts a little badly or behaves a little bit badly, which I'm not sure Fulbright has behaved that badly, they tend to get in trouble for a couple of weeks and then be forgotten about. So they kind of society tends to forgive and forget, even if people really shouldn't be forgiven or forgotten, particularly in the game industry, because there's always the next controversy. I don't know how many people even would know that Campo Santo threatened to DMCA PewDiePie. I don't know if they actually did it. And even on that, it kind of doesn't matter, because then Campo Santo was acquired by Valve, and then, as is common as anybody working at Valve, they pretty much disappear and never create another game anyway, so the odds of a new Campo Santo game ever happening is pretty much zero. I wouldn't be surprised if Open Roads for Fulbright is their last hurrah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not that well received. That's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below so you can get backup notifications when I have new videos out. There is a playlist tab on my YouTube page in which I have a playlist for every game I've ever covered. So I would definitely suggest going and checking out Gone Home. But yeah, plenty of other games worth checking out. Games that actually have interaction and gameplay elements. And then if you want to support me even further than all of that, there's a link down to Patreon in the description, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a gift card or a game off my wish list. That's also very helpful. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.